It is one thing to know, but it's another thing to do. You know, change is happening. The only constant is change. The transformation never ends. Humans are not great with change. So how do you actually equip them with a story, with a journey, with a narrative of the fact that change is okay, get comfortable with change? How do you help people find stability by being agile? 75% of workers said they want more stability in the work, right? Because there's a lot of change happening externally and internally. At the same time, leaders want more agile teams. And that feels in conflict, right? Yeah. Like if workers like, stop changing the work on me, right? Give me stability. And the leader's like, move faster, do things differently, right? Like, how do you reconcile that? By telling the story, our business is changing, work is evolving. Here's how we as an organization are investing in tools, technology, new processes, whatever it may be. And then here's how we as an organization are investing in you, people, to help you navigate, to help you learn, to help you grow. And how your growth will also drive the next round of business growth. To be human is to grow. To be a business is to grow. So let's get comfortable with growth.
Kyle, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
Thanks, Chris. I'm doing great. Great to see you again.
I know. Are you going to show me up again next time I see you at an event? Because you came way too suave at the Unleash conference.
You know, I can't take credit for how I dress because I've got my life partner who's like, you need to up your game if you're going to go hang out with all these people, right? And by the way, you had a phenomenal jacket last time, and I did not have one of those. That with your name on it, right? The Achievers jacket. I'm like, how do I get one of those?
I don't know how I felt about that, to be honest, because I felt like I was walking branding. and it wasn't my branding, but it was good. It was good. It was good.
The things we do. The things
to do. But it's good to see you, man. I mean, pleasantly surprised. We had a great conversation, and I think we got some great feedback off the first interview we did then at the event. So super excited to have a bit more time with you today.
Yeah. Although that means the bar was set pretty low for the last conversation. If you were pleasantly surprised that it was a good one.
No, I don't mean. I mean the fact that we didn't plan until like a week before. It was like a week. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it came together on short notice.
It's always interesting doing a podcast in the middle of a noisy show floor at a conference. That was the first time we did that, actually.
Well, and you were doing it for hours.
Yeah, just 37 episodes in 2 days, just trying to.
Although I think that you had even then said that was not even your longest streak. Like you have gone longer.
No, that was long. That was the longest. The last time that we did a similar one, but it wasn't at a conference. It was like a small venue. We did like 20 in 2 days, and we thought that was crazy. And then the team were like, "Why not do 37?"
Yeah. So the next event, it's
no, we're not doing that. I said for HR Tech, which is the next stop, I'm not doing 40 episodes.
Yeah.
I couldn't even.
That's fair.
I think it took me about 2 weeks to mentally recover. After that as well, But cool. Before we jump in, tell everyone, those that didn't probably catch the first episode we did, like tell everyone a little about your background and sort of the journey into the work that you do now, which is super interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kyle Forrest, I am the future of HR leader at Deloitte, which means I'm responsible for engaging with CHROs, HR leaders, business leaders, HR technology vendors, third-party providers, analysts and thinkers in the ecosystem about where is the HR function headed. Demographic shifts, technological shifts, societal, macroeconomic, right? Those have impacts on businesses. And wherever the business strategy is headed, the HR function needs to be anchored on how is it evolving to support, right? I also oversee the research and evidence that Deloitte brings to market across a variety of topics, inclusive of our signature piece of research every year, which is the Human Capital Trends Report. The 2025 report came out in March. It's the longest longitudinal study of its kind. It's been going on since 2011. This year we had over 13,000 responses, 90 plus different countries. So a lot of different research and data points, whether from small conversations to big research pieces that then inform, what we do with organizations we collaborate with.
Amazing. When did you first realize that you could predict the future of HR?
I don't know that anyone could predict it.
I'm only joking.
But I would say when you have enough conversations along the way, right, you kind of pick some themes out, right? And I've got a colleague who has used this tremendous kind of visual, which is, if you're standing in the middle of a river, which I feel like would be a very calming place to do a podcast one day, maybe we should think about that, right?
Fishing
Yeah,
in the river.
maybe that's a new show, like fishing for the future.
Oh my God.
There you go, right?
That's
And I've learned the phrasing needed, right? But you're standing in a river and like you feel the current, right? And in the middle of all these conversations, you're just like trying to feel like where is the current pushing you? Left, right, forward, backwards on a topic, and then you pay it enough attention. You're like, this is something that we need to like dig into more, right? So that's a little bit. The trends aren't necessarily predictions, right?
Sure.
We've now got enough evidence to say we're pretty comfortable saying something is happening here, and this is where we think it's going.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, such an interesting role you have. Was that something that was created for you internally? I'm just always interested how this came to be.
Yeah. So the role I play now is a little bit of an evolution, right? We have had leaders responsible for the eminence and research that we do, but we want it to be very intentional with how we represent that externally now, right? And I would say part of it is because over the last 5 years, human capital topics, they are C-suite and board topics, full stop. Yeah. Whether you are private company, public sector, right? Everything that happens in the world, organizations are responding in the context of what does this mean for humans, right? And so we wanted to be that much more deliberate with how that message gets out there. And also, how do we then think about the tremendous amount of research and other voices that are happening out there, right? So there's a lot of collaboration we do with other organizations relative to shaping those insights, bringing them forward, amplifying the research that some other organizations are doing. Because the more voices that bring credible data to a topic, the easier it is for leaders, managers, workers to then understand this is important and I should do something about it. And now here are some stories that help maybe give me a path for what I should do, right? Because I would say everyone appreciates a great conversation, but if they don't leave with, here's a tangible step I can take, then they're like, yeah, sure, I learned something, but I'm going to put that on the shelf for the next 5 years. And at no point do we want people walking away thinking this is just something that's going to sit on the shelf. It's, I need to take action on this now, and here's a step I can take so that in 5 years, my business is still successful and driving outcomes for not only the organization, but the humans in and around that organization.
Yeah, no, I agree. I kind of feel like that about some conferences. You kind of go there, you write down loads of notes you're really excited about, you get back to the office, it goes in the drawer, and you get back to work. And nothing really happens from that. Well, let's jump into the report. Walk us through sort of firstly the key themes of the 2025 Deloitte Global Human Capital Trends Report, and maybe talk about some of the things that really stood out to you, maybe some surprises in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So our 2025 report built on a concept we introduced in 2024, which was that organizations need to focus on business outcomes and human outcomes together, right? Because if you don't, you will not achieve the full potential of what you're trying to do, right? There are examples organizations over-rotate on business outcomes, and there's an unintended human impact, right? Whether that is lack of consumer trust or lack of or brand damage from candidates, whatever it may be. At the same time, if you over-rotate on the human outcomes, perhaps you don't achieve the full ROI of a business outcome that you're trying to drive, right? So focus on business and human outcomes together. And then as we were doing the research relative to 2025, really what we were seeing was there are a set of external to the organization and internal factors that drive tensions, right? That really make it challenging to think about what choice point do I make? And then how do I communicate that choice point out to stakeholders, right? Am I automating work or augmenting the workforce, right? Because for 2.5 years now, almost every other news article is something to do with AI and automation, right? But our belief is across all these tensions, it is not an either or, it's a both and. Every organization is automating work, full stop, right? And they are doing that to augment the humans, right? So how do you be explicit as an organization to say this is the business outcome? We are automating work because, and we are augmenting the humans because, right? And therefore you can paint a story that leaders and managers and workers can see themselves in a little bit better, right? So our overall theme is, how do you take those tensions and turn it into triumph, right? Or how do you take uncertainty in the world and turn it into opportunity for the business and for the humans? And then we really dug into 3 sub-themes, right? What does this mean for how you think about work, right? Do I, as an organization, as a leader, am I confident that we're doing the right work the optimal way? Then, second theme around the workforce. Am I able to access and enable and develop the necessary workforce to do that work? And the last piece then around org and culture, right? Am I actually enabling human performance within the organization? Because if I know that I've set up the team to do the work the right way, if I've got the right workforce, but the people aren't behaving the right way, I'm not going to accomplish the first 2, right? Mm-hmm. So then within each of those 3 themes, we went deeper into some different topics.
Wow. I mean, there's so much to unpack. we need a couple of shows.
It's like, oh, okay, Kyle, you're going to be a standing guest every day for the next few weeks.
Yeah, we need to do a daily show on LinkedIn. First of all, what is the why behind why organizations should be going on this journey? I kind of just want to start off that. For us, it's pretty obvious. We talk about it every day in the work that we do. But for people listening, what is the why?
Yeah. So, Chris, I'll use the phrase that we were kind of throwing around right before we got started, which is, it is one thing to know, but it's another thing to do, right? So the why an organization should go on this journey, change is happening. And the phrase that people have been throwing around for a few years now is like, the only constant is change, right? The transformation never ends, right? So why should you go on this journey? Because humans are not great with change. So how do you actually equip them with a story, with a journey, with a narrative of the fact that change is okay, get comfortable with change? And one of the chapters that we actually have in the report, under our theme of work, is called stagility, right? We had to make up one word, and it's stagility, which means, how do you help people find stability by being agile, right? And the data behind that was 75% of workers who responded to the survey said they want more stability in the work, right? Because there's a lot of change happening externally and internally. At the same time, leaders said 85% of leaders want more agile teams. And that feels in conflict, right? Yeah. Like if a worker's like, stop changing the work on me, right? Give me stability. And the leader's like, move faster, do things differently, right? Like, how do you reconcile that? And one of the ways you reconcile it is just by telling the story, like, our business is changing, work is evolving. Here's how we as an organization are investing in tools, technology, new processes, whatever it may be. And then here's how we as an organization are investing in you, people, to help you navigate, to help you learn, to help you grow, and how your growth will also drive the next round of business growth, right? Everything I just said, people will say, oh, that sounds so simple. I know it. How many organizations are telling the story? How many organizations are doing it, right? Telling that story of, to be human is to grow, to be a business is to grow. So let's get comfortable with growth.
Yeah. Like, what's different about this transformation? We've been through multiple transformations, right? We kind of went through the evolution of the digital transformation over the last 10 years. Now we've got this sort of AI transformation. Is this different? It feels different. To me, it feels different than the past. Or do you feel like it's just the same, but just a different?
Yeah. So Chris, one of the things over the last, I think, a couple years, people try to then categorize different types of technology, right? And I think the phrase that maybe enough people have started to get comfortable with outside of maybe academic or historical purposes is like a general purpose technology. And the view that AI is a general purpose technology. Well, what does that mean, right? When electricity was introduced, or when the desktop laptop computer was introduced, that became a general purpose technology. But it took time, right? So electricity, 40 years for full on adoption. Well, when electricity was first put in a factory floor, turning on the lights didn't change how factories were done, right? You had to rearrange the machines. You had to think of the shift schedule because you could do 3 8-hour shifts and work for 24 hours, all these different things. But it took 40 years. And then, desktop computers, laptop computers, 20 years, mobile in the cloud, et cetera, right? So those general purpose technology, the pace of adoption shortened over time. And so I think there's this concept, right, or this perspective that AI, and I'll use it in the broadest sense of the word, AI and automation is that next big general purpose technology. It will be everywhere, right? And it will not take us 20 years. It'll take us 10 or 8 or 7 or whatever it may be, right? It's already, in phones, in laptops, in different software programs, you name it. And so it becomes one of those things of why it's different. You look back at those last waves of general purpose technology, and then what happened after? Tremendous amounts of growth and creativity and new roles and new things, et cetera. And I think this moment in time is still just like such an early part of the wave that there's so much uncertainty about where it will head. And there are still people who are like, will we realize AI's potential or will it disappoint, right? Is this all smoke and mirrors at the moment? But I would wager people thought the same thing with electricity. Oh, hey, it's a new fancy lantern, right? But that's like, no, it's not a new fancy lantern. It is something else.
Yeah. It's that kind of like, we see this time and time again, right? We saw it with retail and e-commerce. Those companies that were late to adopt an online store and build out the e-commerce, just most of them don't exist right now. We saw it with obviously the internet. We saw it with social media. I mean, we've seen it multiple times, right? Come along. What do you feel like and we'll get back into some of the report because there's so many great insights there. What do you think, what's the impact for companies that don't make this change?
Yeah, well, gosh, even pre the last 2.5 years, from an AI and automation perspective, there was data that the time a company was spending on the S&P 500 was shrinking, right? And so if you think about that, it's because the speed of some of those other disruptions that you mentioned, just like, launching the internet, mobile, you name it, right? And so if your organization is not built to adapt and evolve and incorporate new technologies or incorporate new concepts that are out there, right, it will be a struggle to last, right? Now, there's many changes that are happening in the world, right? Many different trends that are intersecting, right? Another trend from a demographics perspective is where workers are and in what generation are they, right? Within the US, for example, in 2025 was the largest graduating high school class, which means there will be fewer entry-level workers entering the workforce starting in the next few years because there will be fewer people graduating from high school, thus going to college, right? So there's a lot of different intersecting trends that companies across, different industries and sectors have to think about. You can't focus on only one, which is a little bit of the purpose of like this trends report, right? All these trends, none of them stand in isolation. They are all connected in one way or another, and you have to be thinking about and using the data to inform, things that are connected.
Yeah. Of all the trends in the report, which do you believe will have the most immediate impact on organizations in the next, say, 12 months?
Yeah. So I'm going to call out 3,
So that's a typical answer. Which one? Okay, I'll give you 3. Nah, the rule of 3 is fine with me. I like the rule of 3. It's good. Yeah. It's fine.
And here's why I'll call out the 3. So we have a trend under the category of work, all about unlocking capacity. And the data point is that across our survey respondents, again, 13,000, folks said 40% of their time is spent on non-value added work, right? So if you think about that, there's tremendous amount of work being done that is not directly contributed to innovating or selling or engaging with customers or whatever it may be, right? So what can organizations do as they take action to simplify or to eliminate or automate or whatever that non-value added work, and now how does that capacity get used for growth, right? So that's a number 1. Number 2 is this trend that we went into about what is the role of the manager, reimagining the role of the manager, right? And the workers who responded, so we split some of the survey response into like worker responses versus executives. I think it was something like 70% of workers said, I know what motivates me, but 30-ish% said, my manager does not know what motivates me. Or no, 30-ish% said, my manager does. So there's a huge gap, right? Yet at the same time, people said the best managers are invested in like developing, right? Giving me feedback, coaching, guiding, right? So then if you can free up that capacity for the role of the manager, how much more impact can managers have on workers, right? So 2 separate trends. And then connected to that, one of the ways many organizations are going to be, creating that capacity, of course, is through AI and automation, right? And there's this whole concern about what does this do for entry-level roles, right? And so we had a trend called closing the experience gap, where we saw data that said like 66% of organizations had increased the experience requirements from like 0 to 2 years for entry level for 2 to 5, right? And you're right. You think like, okay, well, how did this entry level role require more experience
that's quite surprising.
than recently?
Yeah.
Yeah. And part of our call to action with that trend is you have to redefine experience, right? I can't just say experience is number of years in role or number of years in level or number of years in the workplace. It's, does this person have the skills applied in the context that I need them, right? Do I need someone who's got 10 years of experience working with an on-premise software, or do I need 1 year of experience working with a cloud software solution, right? So how do you take those 3 together, right? If I unlock capacity for workers and managers, can managers actually spend more time coaching, developing, mentoring, not only the newest workers, but all workers, and that those 3 together would drive tremendous value for the organization and the humans within the organization.
Yeah. Well, from the workforce experience and skills gap perspective, what practical steps do you work with companies in terms of helping them anticipate and prepare for the skills of tomorrow? Because we all remember just last year, all of a sudden the new craze was prompt engineer. That disappeared very quickly. Right? It was, I've never seen a job go so high and then disappear so quickly, because AI evolved that you don't really need a good prompt engineer because it's now good enough to be able to give you the answers that you need.
Yeah, well, and I'll give you a homework assignment. Go look up context engineering after this, right?
Is that the newest one?
As the evolution of prompt engineering, right? Because AI needs, the more context you give it, the more impactful it can be, right? So how do you tackle kind of closing the experience gap? How do you think about skills, right? There's a few pieces. One is you need to actually understand the work being done within the organization, right? What skills, therefore, are needed to do that work, right? And thus, as you make AI and automation investments, if those are impacting certain tasks and thus there are skills you no longer need, then what are the skills that you do need for the work you want your humans to do, right? Then you need to be very explicit. how do we set up growth and learning and development programs to enable the development of those skills, right? And one of those things that we would explicitly encourage organizations to do is to update their employee value proposition and just be AI forward, right? And say, hey, candidates and workers, we are investing in AI. These are the tools. As you come into the organization, day one, week one, month one, this is the training we will give you to help learn how to use AI. And oh, by the way, the work will continue to evolve. The way in which we deploy AI will continue to evolve. So here's how we will set you up to continue to learn and grow along the way and learn new skills, right? So that's a set of things that you can tell your candidates and workers for how their skills will evolve, right? Now, you also need to pair that with, at a minimum, your people analytics team, your workforce analytics team, or others, who is responsible for looking and sensing to the external market to say, where are we seeing the trends of work go, right? And bringing that in to marry it up with, here's the investments we're making, here's the evolution of what we're doing, and how are we telling that story back to our candidates and workers.
I love that. That's probably one of the most comprehensive responses I've ever had to that question. in the best way possible.
I try. I told you earlier, I don't want to leave people with like a theoretical, that was nice, but I don't know what to do about it, right? Like there's a couple really of things like you can actually do.
I love that. It's super practical. I've got so many more questions, but I'm going to have to narrow it down because I know we're a bit on time. But one of the things I'm really interested about, and a lot of the things I'm hearing from CHROs or I'm interviewing, on a daily basis, is how do they foster that collaboration between employees and AI tools, right? Because we're going to have that employee AI collaboration, and this is going to continue to evolve with agents, right? That can now take actions, operate and deliver tasks, etc. Yeah. That's kind of one of the things that's on the top of their mind that they're really worried about, concerned about.
Yeah. Well, Chris, I'll start by sharing a little bit about a trend that we actually put forward in our 2024 report that we call the digital playground, right? And the reason we did was it was taking this concept of play, right? And how do humans learn and grow? Often, starting from childhood by playing, right? By imagining new things, looking at things differently, right? And the digital playground we did not say was a place. It was a little bit of a mindset. Like, how are you helping an organization understand, or the workers understand, we want you to use this tool and we want you to challenge us, right? We might think this is how the tool can be used, but set aside an hour a day, an hour a week, whatever it may be, learn, grow, etc., right? And I'll share an example from the Deloitte ourselves. So we have a tool called Sidekick that we rolled out to our workforce, right? And we used additional research that we've done around the 4 factors of trust, right? If I ask you, what does trust mean? If I ask 10 people, I'll probably get 10 different answers. But if I ask you, what does reliability mean, right? Doing what you say you will do, right? What does transparency mean? Speaking with simple, easy to understand language, right? A couple of the factors. So we kind of measured the beginning, and then we took a set of actions, right? Some of those actions were like introducing savvy user profiles, right? Hey, here's someone in your part of the business using Sidekick as a tool. Here's how their work is changing, right? Here's what they're doing, right? We had sessions like sit with the technical expert. You want to know how the tool works, how it was trained, what was the data that it was used on, right? What's underneath the hood, so to speak, right? We can have that, right? So we took these actions, and then we had, challenges, hackathons, promptathons, things, right? Give people the space to play. And measuring from before and after, we saw the trust scores increase, the usage increase, the adoption increase, right? And so if you think about how do you get workers comfortable with using an AI and automation tool or some sort of machine, right? Because now many organizations too, if I think blue collar, looking at humanoid robots or other types of robots, right? And different robotics have been in factories for a long time, and humans have learned to work with them, right? So there's also many lessons perhaps that knowledge workers and companies can take from blue collar, right? How have people been adopting, workers, robotic support in factories? But sometimes it's giving them the space to play and understand how is your role going to evolve.
Yeah. I love that. Practical as always. And I think a big part of that is also giving them the psychological safety, like we do,
Exactly.
like we do with kids in the playground. They're going to fall over, but and make some
but we're
make
here
some
for you.
yeah.
Take a risk.
Yeah.
It's okay to fail. It's okay to learn, right? Because your learning and growth, whether successful or failure or otherwise, right, is going to not only help you as an individual, but it will help us as an organization, right?
Yeah. And I know so many companies doing a similar thing, and there's been so much innovation that they've shared with me that's just come out of some of those hackathons that have been game changers that they've now deployed to their customers or deployed internally, just through some of that. And, Google used to do that very well. Google was very well known before.
That was that 20%.
Yeah.
Dedicate 20% of your week to just thinking, innovating, right?
Yeah, I think like
Working on a personal project.
I think like Gmail and Google Maps came from that, which
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah.
To think about that for a second, of what Gmail and Google Maps have become, off the back of that. But listen, before I'll let you go. This is a tough question, but where do you see these trends, and how do you see them sort of shaping the future of work over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah. So, Chris, one of the things that we've been exploring over the last couple of years is the concept of the boundaryless organization, right? Meaning organizations often work in functional silos, right? I'm over here in finance, I'm over here in IT, I'm over here in HR. AI and automation, in and of itself, requires access to data, right? The more data you give it, the more it can do. And one of the things for how you do that is breaking down silos between functional technologies. As you break down those silos, you now have to have the people working together differently, right? So as I think about where does work go forward, there's one of my colleagues, Mike Bechtel, who's the chief futurist at Deloitte, has been really talking about breadth as the new depth, right? The ability for people to be problem solvers, curious, creative, working across a set of functional topics, leveraging AI and automation to drive new and different business outcomes, right? And that's tremendous potential. So I think there are going to be organizations who net new start and don't have the same org structure functional teams that we see today, right? They're just going to have front office, back office, right? And that might be the only two quote unquote functions or teams that they have. We're going to see examples for more established organizations of functions coming together under one leader that might not have been, expected or anticipated in the past. I think we're going to see new ways of configuring teams, right? Deployed around problems like, hey, I need someone from finance and IT and HR and legal and procurement to come together for new market entry, new product launch, M&A, right? But they're truly together in one team versus being individual representatives, right? So I think it's going to be ways in which we work faster, work better, work together, ultimately driving this new wave of growth and creativity and innovation that, knock on wood, is beneficial for businesses and the humans within and without those businesses.
Wow. Listen, I could talk to you forever, Kyle. We need our own show. We're going to be doing. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Last time we chatted a little bit about science fiction, right?
Yeah.
So we'll have to do what was that show, like the Future 3000, where they had the little guys in front of the screen kind of commenting on the movies, right? Like we can go pick in, like some of these things is we have predicted many things and those things are coming to life,
it's
right?
True. Yeah.
So it's growth and change, right? And it's now how do people get comfortable with what is ahead and take that optimistic lens, because a phrase that I like is a positive mindset brings positive outcomes.
100%.
Sounds simple. Let's go tackle the future together.
Let's do it. So firstly, for everyone listening, wherever you are, watching, listening, there's a link to the report below, because you're all going to be asking me that. So it's already there. So wherever you're watching right now. And also, Kyle, best place for people to connect with you, LinkedIn? That probably be best.
Yeah. Feel free to find me on LinkedIn. You will see a steady stream of insights coming from conversations like this, conferences, events, dinners, roundtables, other reports that I'm seeing and reading. And I do my best to offer up both video and written for all types of learners and ways in which you digest. And for those of you who go to the link to the report, we also have mini videos and infographics, if that's your preferred way of learning as well, or toss it into your favorite LLM to digest and summarize it for you.
We've done that already, by the way. we put the report into our Atlas HRLM and for users.
Help me prepare.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have a newsletter on LinkedIn?
Yes, I do. Yep.
Yeah, so I'll link that below because I read, so people can follow and make sure they get notifications.
Yeah, appreciate
when
it.
you do that. But I'll see you again soon, my friend. I know you're always everywhere and part of every conversation to keep your ear close to the ground. So I appreciate you coming on, and I wish you all the best.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. And one of these days I got to find my way into that studio, so we'll make it happen.
Next time you're in London, we'll make it happen.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Have a great one.
Thank you.